of voting age will go to the polls to exercise their civic duty. Now, the Saturday, February 23 elections, which are for presidential and National Assembly positions, were earlier scheduled for the 16th of February, but postponed due to logistics and operational challenges. However, it is the tradition of the Commission to hold presidential and National Assembly elections on the third Saturday in February of an election year. Available statistics from the election management body, the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, show that 91 political parties are participating in the general elections. In all, 23,316 candidates are contesting for the 2019 elections, out of which 73 are vying for the presidential seat. 1,904 for Senate, 4,680 for the House of Representatives, 1,066 for the governorship, while 14,583 for state assembly seats. Now, more than 84 million eligible voters are expected to cast their ballot during the Saturday exercise in 119,973 polling units across the country. Out of this number, 52.52% are males, while 47.48% are females. For the purpose of the general elections, INEC has recruited and trained about 1 million young people to serve as ad hoc staff. It has printed 421.7 million ballot papers for the 6 scheduled elections. In addition, INEC has produced 13.6 million result forms for the presidential election alone. Now, as a way to keep Nigerians and international observers abreast of its activities following the postponement of the polls, the electoral umpire has, in the last few days, continued to give progress reports ahead of D-Day. From the 6-point plan of action set out by INEC, 4 of them are expected to have been accomplished by today. That's according to the timelines. The question on the lips of many Nigerians now is INEC fully ready for the rescheduled presidential and National Assembly elections? Are Nigerians going to witness improvements in the conduct of the elections over the previous ones? And are the logistics and operational challenges fully addressed? These and more are some of the questions that will form the focus of our discourse in the next 3 hours on Nigeria Decides. I am Cyril Stober. Welcome to Nigeria Decides studio on the network service of the Nigerian Television. Exercise progresses, and the course of the program, we will bring to you profiles of some presidential candidates. We'll also link up with some of our network centers to give you first-hand information on the build-up to the general elections. Well, and joining me in the Nigeria Decides studio to discuss the build-up to the general elections, especially after the postponement, will be a number of analysts. Let me introduce 2 of them who are already here with us. We have with us sitting in tonight a public affairs analyst, Chief Ajayi. I'd like to welcome you to our studios here.
Thank you.
All right. Okay. And we also have Professor Tony Onishi of the Department of Public Administration and Local Government, University of Nigeria, Nsukka. He is also an adjunct professor of political science and international affairs, University of Abuja. It's a pleasure to have you with us here. Thank you. Now, before we proceed with our discussions in the studio, let's join our correspondent, Mia Ogidi, who's covering INEC activities live at the International Conference Center, venue of the collation of presidential results, for updates on the daily press briefing by the INEC chairman, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu. Of course, we were on to that live briefing a few moments before we started this program. So let's go over to Mia Ogidi. And Mia, hopefully you can hear me right now. What are the highlights of today's briefing by the INEC boss?
Panelist there. As usual, you know, the commission INEC is being guided by 6 activities after the postponement. I may refer to it as the manual for now. First is the deployment of materials, followed by reconfiguration of the smart card readers, and these two items were successfully completed yesterday. And the chairman also told us yesterday that deployment of sensitive materials started, and today 19 states have already distributed the sensitive materials to the various local government areas. And according to him, before the end of the day, all the states will get, all the local governments will get the sensitive materials, except Bayelsa State, for obvious reasons, because of the terrain. The sensitive materials will be deployed right from the central bank office in Bayelsa State, that's in Yenagoa, down to the various local government areas. There are 8 local government areas in Bayelsa State. And he also talked about visa, extension of visa for foreign observers who may have a short or single entrance to entry to the country because of the postponement of the elections. And a table has been set up. Immigration officers are already in the INEC headquarters in Metema, Abuja, here to address some of those challenges. And he also informed the international observers that those that are willing to come to Nigeria to participate in the elections, as in the observers, their visas will be facilitated. And he also told us the issue of permanent voters' cards. And we recall that 69 million permanent voters' cards were used in the 2015 elections, and 14.2 million were registered ahead of the 2019 elections. That brings to the total 84 million permanent voters' cards. But out of this number, the INEC embarked on what it referred to as mob-up exercise of the permanent voters card that were registered between 2014 and 2016. And the figure that was retrieved from that period, the voters card, permanent voters card that has not been collected, is 7.8 million. And out of the 14.2 million permanent voters cards that were registered precisely in 27th of May 2017 rather, to August 2018, 3.41 million PVCs remain uncollected. That brings to the total of previous PVCs not collected in 2014 to 2016 and 2017 to 2019 stands at 11.2 million. So if you remove 11.2 million from 84 million, it stands at 72.2 million permanent voters cards. So the implication here is that only 72.2 million voters that will participate in the general elections. And on the issue of security, is clear in Section 29 of the Electoral Act 2010 as amended that the police remain the lead agency in electoral security, though the military can be invited in case their services are needed. And that section, I remember when the INEC chairman held a meeting with the security agencies sometime January 2019, it's clear in that provision that the military can be engaged in case of excursion of sensitive materials to the various local governments, obviously based on the invitation of the police. And he also spoke on the allegation of leakage of electoral materials. He denied completely that no election material was leaked to any party or candidate. However, he's not throwing the allegations into the waste bin. But one thing I would like to tell you is that the issue of a permanent voters card, that is the voters register, now we have 72.2 million voters to participate in this election. If we recall, in 1999, the voters population of Nigeria was approximately 59 million. Out of this 59 million, only 30.2 million participated. And some of those voters some of the votes were even invalid. And in 2015, the voters register, the number of people that participated were 69 million. Out of this 69 million of voters, only 29 million participated. There was high level of voters apathy during this period. Now we have 72.2 million voters. How are we sure that the number will not reduce or reduce this time around? That brings to the question of the role of the National Orientation Agency and other stakeholders to mobilize, sensitize those with permanent voters card. Permanent voter card is not just something you keep in the house to be looking at. It is for a purpose, and this is the time it is needed most. So 1999, the voters turnout was just 52%. 2015 was 42%. 2019, the number increased at least up to 78. So that the exercises being carried out in registering voters and giving them permanent voters cards will not going to be an exercise in futility. However, following the agenda, tomorrow, today, refresher training is going on across the country. Report from organized by the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, to update Nigerians on preparations ahead of the elections that are just 48 hours away. Thank you, Cyril. It's back to you.
Right, thank you so much, Mia, and thanks for giving us those statistics. They are actually very important, and as you said to us, it's quite possible that the about 72.2 million who collected their PVCs may not, in the long run, participate, and that's an issue that we've been seeing growing over the years. But like the INEC chairman himself said, that perhaps is a matter for an engagement with the Nigerian public after the 2019 elections. But just one quick point before we let you go, Mia, and that has to do with the questions, some of the questions that were raised when the INEC chairman, after the INEC chairman gave his briefing. And one of them had to do with the voting time, and you had people trying to find out if voting would stop effectively at 2 o'clock. But from the explanation he gave, it won't stop at 2 until the last voter has cast his ballot. That is dependent, of course, on if that voter arrived and joined the queue before 2 p.m. Now, could you just highlight that for us once again so that so many people who've been asking questions about that can, be clear about it? Mia.
Okay, voting, the polls will open by exactly 8 a.m. and close by 2 p.m. But they have the permanent smart card readers are programmed to end at 10 p.m. But if, for instance, a voter is accredited before 2 o'clock, but based on who he is following or whatever reason, he will still cast his ballot. But the accreditation and authentication of the permanent voter's card ends 2 p.m. If you have been accredited and your PVC been authenticated, you can still use the smart card reader after 2 o'clock. But official accreditation and authentication ends by 2 p.m. Cyril.
Thank you very much, Mia. We'll let you go now, and much later we'll check in with you to find out if there are any updates. Thank you very much, Mia Ogidi. Mia at the International Conference Center in Abuja. That's the venue for the collation of the presidential results. Well, for those who were around at that time, I'm talking about the period of the Second Republic, they would recall that one of the contestants, one of the front runners then, started something that became a national maxim. It was referred to at that time as politics without bitterness. Now, it caught on, and many Nigerians, even after that failed republic, have adopted that maxim to be certain that our politicking need not necessarily be with rancor. And so, as we kick off our program today, we have a number of special reports, and the first one we'll be taking right away will be one on politics without bitterness. And this report is by Talatu Ezerike.
We have learned to live under the rule of law. We have learned to fight for the freedom of the individual. Would you like to substitute this so that a number of opportunist black imperialists will rule you and oppress you?
Politics in Nigeria predates stagnation, championed by the country's founding fathers with the sole intention of building solid democratic culture that will improve the well-being of the people.
While we of the people will say we are party of tomorrow.
One significant thing about the symbol of the action group is that it symbolizes what you want and what I want.
the Northern People's Congress, NPC, of Ahmadu Bello and Sir Abubakar Tafawa Balewa, the National Council of Nigeria and the Cameroon, NCNC, headed by Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe, and the Action Group, AG, led by Chief Obafemi Awolowo, all had the people's interest as priority.
We had people committed to the welfare of the people and the progress of the country.
The country is so united that because somebody belongs to another party, he's not looked at as an enemy.
Not mining ethnicity, whether you are Yoruba, whether you are Igbo, whether no ethnicity in Nigeria. So if we can follow that step, Nigeria will be peaceful.
The vision pursued by subsequent politicians in galvanizing national ideas and commitment to peace, progress and stability in the country. But over time, issues such as survival in the national stage, tribalism, agitations and political violence found their ways into national politics. To nip all these in the bud, actions were taken in many flashpoints where they were threats to national survival and progress. The 30-month civil war ended with resolution to keep Nigeria one, with no victor, no vanquish. Despite the impact of these reconciliatory measures to heal the wounds of the civil war, the return to civil rule in 1979 saw Alhaji Waziri Ibrahim of blessed memory championing politics without bitterness and good governance, which he canvassed as the then presidential candidate of the great Nigerian People's Party, GNPP. Political observers say the philosophy of politics without malice to checkmate the make or destroy mindset of politicians is key for national development and political maturity.
You cannot have a strong, virile political system without an entrenched culture of political tolerance. Vying for election is like sports. At the end of the day, there will be winners and losers.
After the election, Nigeria continues. No matter who become president, it's only for 4 years, Nigeria continues.
The campaign for politics without bitterness is still on and even taken further with the introduction or signing peace accord by parties and candidates, which is yielding results. Former President Goodluck Jonathan calling to concede defeat at the 2015 elections to President Muhammadu Buhari is seen as a big plus for the campaign of politics without bitterness.
In this part of the world, especially in Nigeria, that was the first time such thing was happening. And he also realized that it is God who giveth power and who taketh power.
But the politicians are the ones who are on the stage. They said, Shakespeare said, all the world is a stage. They are the ones on stage now. So if you win, fine. If you lose, bow out gracefully.
2019 is here, and Nigerians are deciding who leads them. Again, the need for peaceful process anchored on issues devoid of hate, violence, and heated polity is advocated.
Nigerian women, representing our youths and people with disability, want peace. There is nothing more than peace, and we eschew bitterness.
At a time like this, the clarion call is for politicians to play by the rule, understanding that democracy is government of the people, by the people and for the people. Talatu Ezerike, NTA News.
All right, thank you very much, Talatu. Well, we said to you that we'll link up with our correspondents in our various centers to give us updates on what's happening there. For now, let's go over to our Jos Network Center. We have Sani Ben Saleh sitting in today to take us through what the preparations are for the 23rd polls. Sani, it's up to you now.
Cyril, welcome to Jos. With me in the studio, Cyril, welcome to Jos. With me in the studio, Cyril, welcome to Jos. Mr. Osaritin Imaherebo, sir, welcome to Nigeria Decides.
Thank you, Sani.
The question on the lips of every Nigerian is INEC ready for 23rd February in Plateau State?
Yeah, let me start by saying that we're quite ready. If you go to most of the offices today, the local government offices, materials are being bashed. That is the materials that will go to the various rack centers and the PUs by tomorrow. All the materials have been taken. We took delivery of these materials from the central bank.
When you say batch, what do you really mean?
No, that is making them, putting them together, result sheet, ballot papers, and others that will be going to the polling units.
Okay.
So they will go to the rack centers tomorrow. Remember that the rack centers will be activated by 9 a.m. tomorrow morning.
9
a.m. in the morning, and then the all the officials, the ad hoc staff will be there at 12 noon. And so all the materials, the SPOs are right now working with the electoral officers, and these electoral officers are the ones that will take these SPOs are the ones that will take these materials to the rack centers tomorrow. Supervisory presiding officers that will take these materials to the rack centers tomorrow, and then by same tomorrow they will have oriented to give the ad hoc staff some refresher training, so that they know exactly what to do on Saturday.
Now, how many ad hoc staff are we using in Plateau State?
Well, excluding the supervisory presiding officers and the coalition officers, we have 22,618. That is made up of the presiding officers, assistant presiding officers 1, 2, and 3.
Okay. Now, as at today, what is the level of this batching of materials?
It's almost been concluded. They started very early in the morning and haven't received the materials yesterday. You know, receiving of those materials ought to end today, but haven't received those materials late in the night yesterday. After we had a meeting with the ISS meeting, we all moved from the ISS meeting to the central bank, where the electoral officers collected the materials, and we started from the farthest location. We started from Wase, Kwampa, and all that, so that the materials will get to the place on time. And then those who are in Jos, not Jos South, which is very close to us here, had to collected their materials late in the evening yesterday. But as of today, all these materials have been batched to rack centers, and that is the registration area centers and the polling units. And so what we're just expecting is for them to move. Once the rack center is activated tomorrow, by 12 noon, all the materials would have gone to the rack centers. And then early in the morning, the materials will be at the polling units by 7 o'clock. And by 8 o'clock, the election starts.
That is on Saturday?
That is on Saturday.
Now, in view of the last week's disappointment, what would you tell voters in Plateau State?
You know, we've started by apologizing. The chairman had done that, even the resident electoral commissioners in most of the states, and we have been doing that, going to radio stations. We even engaged some CSOs who have been going around from one area to the other across the 3 senatorial districts, pleading with them, letting them know that, look, what has happened on Saturday has happened, but let's move forward. It's a sacrifice for all of us. And so what we are doing presently is to encourage them to go out on Saturday to vote. The chairman has assured everyone that everything is ready. We here in Plateau, we are ready with all the materials, and we are good to go on Saturday.
Well, still as head of voter education, it is your duty to convince any doubting Nigerian in Plateau State that he or she should really go and vote, because one vote could make a difference. So what would the person lose? Somebody will refuse to go and exercise his franchise.
Well, in order to avoid that, we've been working with the National Orientation Agency, like I said, with the civil society groups. And since this thing happened on Saturday, we've really never had time to sleep. We've been moving from one area to the other, from one radio station to the other, and to every other areas. And then we'll be talking to them the need for them to vote. Because even if you complain that by what happened on Saturday, because of that you're not coming out, it means that you probably may not have made up your mind that you are going to vote. But I can assure you that based on the number of people we have met and those who have called in through the radio stations and even the radio TV programs, they had assured us that they will come out more than how they would have come out on Saturday, because as we speak, people have been talking to each other. So, like yesterday during the Champions League matches, our officials went to various viewing centers during the halftime to speak with them on the need for them to be part of this electoral process. And in doing that, what we told them is, even if you are going to participate, but make it violent free. Let nobody use you to disrupt the system. And so for us here in Plateau, we've done a lot of work trying to convince the people. NOA has been collaborating with us. Other stakeholders, even the political parties and others have been collaborating. We have had meetings, had stakeholders meetings with most of these people. And what the assurance that we have from these people is that they will participate on Saturday.
Well, on that assuring note, I think I will have to return you to Cyril Stober so that you can continue from Abuja. Thank you for being with us.
All right, thank you very much, Sani. Well, very innovative move by INEC in Jos, going to football viewing centers to sensitize the people to come out and perform their civic duty. Well, from Jos, we'll go over to our Lagos Network Center, and Bayo Adeusi is sitting in today, and he will take it up from here. Bayo, good evening.
Thank you very much, Cyril. Hello and a very warm welcome to you on Nigeria Decides from the Lagos Network Center. What difference a week makes, particularly in the political space? To refresh your memory, the presidential and National Assembly elections scheduled for last Saturday were postponed, at the last minute cancelled, INEC citing logistic problems. The chairman of INEC and other members of the commission have spoken exhaustively about the inevitable cancellation and have assured Nigerians that come hell or high water, the elections would hold this Saturday on the 23rd of February. If the elections had held as scheduled, a winner would have emerged by now. But we must thank Nigerians for their patience and know that at the end of the day, winners would emerge still. To ensure that things go very smoothly, Friday the 22nd has been declared a nationwide public holiday. What a difference a week makes. Airline operators have extended their goodwill to the traveling public who need to go back to their places of registration to cast their votes. We'll have a report on that during the program. Well, viewers, we're all set to go with this initial report.
Behind me is the Central Bank of Nigeria, where INEC materials are kept. All these trucks you see around are waiting to convey the materials to the 20 local government areas in the state, preparation for Saturday's election. I have with me here the PRO of INEC in Lagos State.
By now, we want to start with Animashaw because it has the biggest consignment. Our attention has been shifted to the CBN Tinubu Square, Lagos, because that is where INEC consignment are housed. And then we are here now to move them out to the 20 local government areas in Lagos State. We have in there the representative of political party and all ASEC's members, they are there to ensure things are done properly.
So, can you also tell us how prepared is INEC Lagos State for the Saturday's election?
INEC Lagos State is fully prepared for Saturday election. The rack has been put in proper shape and all the sensitive material has been batched, waiting for the arrival of this sensitive material to match together with it. And then from the local government, it will be broken down into various polling units before it is taken to the rack by latest tomorrow. All smart car readers for Lagos State, including the backup, have been reconfigured to reflect the present situation, that is the new date.
It's over to you now in the studio.
Well, thank you, Ken Egbeluge, for that report. Joining me in the studios are two discussants who will throw light and not heat into the affairs that would herald the election on Saturday. First is Chief Kolade Olutekunbi. He's a legal practitioner and a public analyst. Welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
Well, our next guest is a very regular on this channel. He's an associate professor at the Institute of International Affairs, at the Nigerian Institute of International Affairs. He's an associate professor of international relations and strategic studies, Dr. Segun Bolarinwa.
Thank you, sir.
Welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Well, yes, the past is the past. but the past also affects the present. The postponement of the elections from last week to this week, some observers believe that it would lead to voter apathy. What's your view?
Yes, of course. It's a general impression, it's a general opinion, and it is also believed that a lot of people were not happy out there for that postponement. Even myself, I was shocked, though I was here. We were analyzing it, preparing for the next few hours as at that last week, only to hear it by 2 a.m. that the elections have been postponed for logistics reasons, as the INEC chairman said. So that has sent a message of what we call political apathy to the electorate. And
why should it? Why should it?
Well, because people were actually so prepared, people were so ready. You see the euphoria everywhere, you see the tension everywhere, you see even, to an extent, the fear. Because everybody had to rush home, people were buying, there was panic buying. Even as of that day when I was returning back to my house, my brother will stop at the filling station. Most of the filling stations were shut down, only a few that were selling. You see the queue from here to like 50 kilometers and all of that. So you see the apathy, you see the fear, you see the tension. People were so scared, people were so ready. Everybody was just waiting for whatever will happen. But eventually, it just became a very powerful breaking news that the election have been postponed. So that sent a message of apathy, or whatever we can call it. I don't want to say loss of confidence to the people.
Olutekunbi, do you share his...
Well, I concur with some of the view expressed by the learned professor. The natural consequence of what happened for postponement is the voter apathy. But you also recall that those who had gone for election at their various homes, villages, and towns were already set for election. And for the postponement to come at that late, very, very late hour it did. Because if the Nigerian people had known that the election will not hold on Saturday, possibly most of them will not have traveled. So there is likely to be...
Okay, sir. The election has been postponed. Are you optimistic?
Yes, yes. In fact, some of my findings in the past few days had shown that people are now happy, ready, committed, and hopeful now. I use the word hopeful, that INEC has claimed now, so ready, all machine card readers are ready, reconfigured, all materials distributed, just as even said, even in Lagos chapter or office. So what we are hopeful of now is that everything will go smoothly, everything will go peacefully, everything will come out peacefully, and people will accept the outcomes, and that God will help us, that things will move well. So we are hopeful, we are ready, people out there are committed, and we are just thinking, let us move ahead, let's move on, because our Rome was not built in a day.
Well, thank you very much, gentlemen, for your contributions.
Thank you.
We have a lot more to come up with, but it's time to hand over to Abuja. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bayo. And back here, our next report is on the preparations, INEC preparations in the Federal Capital Territory. And this report is by Ifoma Ojinta.
Sensitive materials for the conduct of Saturday's polls are still being sorted at the premises of the FCT INEC office here in the Federal Capital Territory. The FCT Independent National Electoral Commission took delivery of these sensitive materials at about 6:30 Wednesday evening.
We will stay and sort out these materials, local government by local government, senatorial, House of Representatives and presidential. By Friday, the area councils must have sorted out every material, and I am sure by 7, 8 o'clock, 10 o'clock in the evening, by Friday, they will be able to have reached the racks. And we are, by grace of God, confident that, barring anything, we will be, ready by 7 o'clock, and the polls will open in area FCT by 8 o'clock on Saturday.
And all through the night and up till this morning, the sensitive materials are still being sorted and loaded into various trucks for onward delivery to the 6 area councils of the FCT. Electoral officers of the 6 area councils in the FCT, some observers, journalists, as well as political party agents were on hand to witness the process.
As far as we are concerned, I think we are satisfied and we are okay with the level of preparation so far.
They're doing a wonderful job. I don't see any complications here. I don't see any irregularities. Everything is working as it should.
From what we have seen, I think everything is going smoothly without any problem.
The materials are being sorted area council by area council. And that's the situation here at the FCT INEC office. Ifoma Ojinta is back to the studios.
All right, Ifoma, thanks a lot. We're still taking you across to some of our network centers. This time, we're off to Maiduguri, and there's considerable interest in how the polls will be conducted in the northeast. So we go over to our Maiduguri studios and we join Mohammed Ibrahim. Hello.
Hello, Cyril, and thank you for joining us at Maiduguri Zonal Studio of Nigeria Decides. Following the postponement of 2019 general elections by the Independent National Electoral Commission, a series of activities towards achieving a hitch-free election by INEC and other stakeholders have been put in place. We will now discuss on the preparations by INEC and other stakeholders with invited guests on the program. With me in the studio are these gentlemen: Deputy Superintendent of Police DSP Edet Okon, who is the Police Public Relations Officer, PPRO, Nigeria Police Force, Borno State Command. You're welcome to the program.
Thank you very much, Ibrahim.
Also, Mr. Mika Lakumna, Head Voter Education and Publicity, VEP, INEC, Borno State. You're welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
And Mr. Yahya Imam, Director, National Orientation Agency, NUA, Borno State.
Good evening, viewers.
Let's start with security. What is the security situation towards the success of the 2019 general elections and the 23rd February 2019 presidential and National Assembly elections in particular?
Thank you once again. The Borno State Police Command, under the leadership of CP Demian Chukwu, has put a lot of things in place to ensure a peaceful conduct of the 2019 general elections. Even before now, before the elections time, even prior to the campaign, we had taken measures. We worked towards these elections to ensure that it's going to be peaceful, free, and fair. These measures involved, deploying our intelligence agencies to, try to identify black spots, try to identify volatile areas, and we take measures to neutralize the threats that might emanate from those areas. We also identified some key political talks, notorious ones, and also made steps to curtail their excesses. And right now, the command has deployed over 13,000 personnel across the states to the polling units. And we are ensuring the Borno State public that the security agencies, not only the police, in collaboration with the other security agencies, the military, the DSS, we have the civil defense, customs, immigration, even fire service, state and federal fire service, they are part of these security arrangements. And we are going to provide a peaceful atmosphere for the conduct of a successful election. There's an arrangement in place, we are going to have like 3 cordons. The first cordon, we call it inner cordon, whereby policemen will be deployed without arms to ensure that the civil populace conduct themselves properly. But outside that, 300 meters from the polling station, we are going to deploy armed policemen, mobile policemen, and from there on, we are going to deploy the military also. So we are quite ready, and we are using this opportunity to warn troublemakers or would-be troublemakers to stay away from Borno State, because we are ready to enforce law and order. Thank you very much.
Thank you, PPRO. Director, judging by happenings going on ground and report just that we hear, what is your take on the readiness of the electorate towards exercising their franchise despite the earlier postponement of the election?
Well, feelers from our officers in the local government indicate some degree of disappointment at the beginning. Okay. But I'm very happy to report that still our voters are enthusiastic. And judging by what happened on Saturday, before the postponement, we noticed the challenges that voters went through. So we learned a lesson that we want to correct so that voter turnout could increase. Apathy should not be there. We have realized for people who went there, you know, the election in Borno State is unique because people are voting in a cluster of voting areas. Most of our voters are coming, many of them are coming from outside the state. And these people might want to go back. So definitely we need to retain our voters or ensure that more than enough are still around to vote. Now, in doing that, we have identified 2-3 areas. For instance, as I speak to you now, we have our officers in most of these motor parks to sensitize and mobilize people and then appeal to transport owners so that they don't hike prices of transport, so that we'll encourage people to go back to their voting areas. Secondly, we mobilize local government and state government to provide vehicles, because most of the voters are moving from, they are not resident in where they are voting. So we make sure that local government, state government provide enough logistic for the movement of voters on Saturday. And I'm very happy to observe that we have gotten enough response. Most of them are willing, and our voters are enthusiastic, as I said. They have taken what happened on Saturday in good faith, and we're likely to have a good voter turnout.
Thank you. That's heartwarming. To the VEP, how prepared is INEC for the Saturday, 23rd February 2019 presidential and national assembly elections? Nigerians want to know the situation on ground in Borno State.
Thank you, Mohammed. Here in Borno State, last week I said we are good to go. I want to assure Nigerians that we are very good to go. We have 27 local governments in Borno State, and this morning, 13 out of the local governments that are farthest away have taken their materials alongside with the security agencies. There are also poll officials and also the smart card readers that have been reconfigured. Now, this movement, because of the distance and the locations where these 13 local governments, we actually put down measures into which, on the arrival of these materials, the security that is required at the local government level, as they arrive, INEC offices at the local government level, there are 10 policemen attached to the local government level where these materials in turn will be shared to the supervising presiding officers who will convey these materials by tomorrow morning to the various RAC registration areas. Now, this in turn also, we have at the RAC area policemen attached or security personnel attached to the RACs as well as to the polling units. Now, the security at the local government level and the RAC level are to ensure that main materials are given protection. Now, coming back to the 14 local governments, these 14 local governments are mostly just some few kilometers, barely 5 to 10 kilometers from the state headquarters. Now, these local governments will collect their materials from the central bank where it is kept for it is for safekeeping with the central bank. They will convey their materials by 9 o'clock. All of them will be in the local government where most of them are in the IDPs. For example, we have Guzamala, Marte, Mongono, Dikwa, Moba, and Bama. Then we have Kukawa. These local governments will be conducting their elections, most of them at Mongono. The reason is that most of the people that have local governments that are IDPs, that's from the northern senatorial zone, will move closer to Mongono. Mongono is the senatorial headquarters. And this will also facilitate in the sense that the closer the voting center is to the people, the more the turnout. So arrangements have been made tomorrow morning, first thing in the morning, from the central bank, electoral officers batch their materials to the local government and with their poll officials. This is in order to see that we do not want to take this material since it's not a long distance, because the protection, the safety that is given at the central bank is more of adequate than it would have been on the field.
Okay, I was going to ask you the situation of IDP voting. Yes. We'll come back to that. On the police, okay, that's the much we can take. That will be all for now from Maiduguri studio of Nigeria Decides, until we come around on the next round of discussion and updates on the general election 2019. Cyril is back to you now.
All right, thank you very much, Mohammed. We now take the distribution of sensitive materials by INEC and other preparations for the elections in Kano State. This report is packaged by Fatima Sanusi Karai.
The presidential and National Assembly elections heightened, INEC in Kano is distributing sensitive materials to the 44 local government areas of the state. In compliance with the Memorandum of Understanding between INEC and NURTW, these vehicles are stationed to convey these sensitive materials to their various destinations. Here with me is the head of voter education and publicity.
We have said, yes, in front of Central Kano, you have seen the vehicle line down there. They will enter, take a particular local government and left. So far, we have distributed these materials to the local government areas of the state, like Dogwa, Rogo, Bebeja, and the rest. So I assure you, before the end of today, all the sensitive material will reach their local government areas.
This is the Independent National Electoral Commission Kano office, and behind me are some of the security agents and election materials being moved into different locations across the state. This assurance by INEC, it is hoped that these sensitive materials will get to the 44 local governments of the state on time, and voting will be done on time. Back to you, studio.
Thank you, Fatima. Well, while all these reports were going on, we were joined by the National Commissioner in charge of Information and Voter Education of INEC. That's Mr. Festus Okoye, who's a barrister. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much.
All right. Well, earlier on we had introduced two other guests who had been with us from the start of the program, Professor Tony Nishi and Chief Michael Ajayi. They're still here with us. But let's start with you, yes. Mr. Okoye. And you set for yourself, in the wake of the postponement of the elections, you set for yourself a 6-point plan of action. Where are we on that now?
We expanded that plan of action to give ourselves a little bit elbow room to operate. We have finished with the reverse logistics because after the rescheduling of the elections, we had to reverse all the materials that had already been deployed to the various local governments back to the central bank. We have also finished the configuration of the over 190,000 smart card readers. We had said that all the smart card readers will be configured by today, Thursday, but we succeeded in reconfiguring all of them yesterday. So we gained a day from our reconfiguration of the smart card readers. Now, as of today, over 19 states have moved their materials from the central bank to the various local governments. And by 6 p.m. today, almost all the states will have moved to the various local governments, except Bayelsa State. Bayelsa will deploy from the central bank to the registration areas tomorrow, because we have fewer local governments in Bayelsa, so they don't have the challenge of moving to the local governments and moving to the registration areas. By tomorrow, we will deploy to the registration areas, where we are going to give the ad hoc staff some refresher training, and then batch all the materials being batched as at now. So they will just go to the registration areas tomorrow, because the supervisory presiding officers will collect these materials, move to the registration areas where all the ad hoc staff will be. And then on Saturday, we will be good to go to the various polling units.
Well, you would appreciate the level of concern and demands for more assurances by the voting public.
Yes.
Yeah, following the events of last Saturday. So, at the briefing the INEC chairman gave earlier today,
yes,
you found out that there were so many questions about reassurances, the state of preparedness, and they wanted a certain, word from the election management body that Saturday is sacrosanct.
The chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, has assured the nation that Saturday is sacrosanct. And that accounts for why we have been giving daily briefing to the Nigerian people relating to what we are doing. Yesterday, the chairman briefed the nation on the level of our preparations, gave the number of smart card readers that had been configured, and also assured the nation that we had gained 1 day from the reconfiguration of the smart card readers. Today, the chairman gave the nation the total number of PVCs that had been collected throughout the Federation. And he told the nation that a total of 72,775,585 PVCs have been collected. And that out of the uncollected ones, what we had from a carryover from the previous election was a total of 3,410,677 permanent voters' cards. All the uncollected PVCs have been deposited with the central bank. And as you can see from reports from all the states of the Federation, you can see that materials are being moved to the various local governments. The party agents belonging to all the political parties are seeing what is going on. So I think that it is the right thing to do because when a nation is coming out from a huge disappointment, they are bound to be skeptical. But we have assured and reassured the nation that Saturday is sacrosanct. We are already moving towards Saturday, and Saturday is just by the corner. So we're almost at the finishing line, and I want the Nigerian people to be hopeful, to be reassured, and also to be focused on the goal. The Commission is focused, and we are not looking back.
Chief Michael Ajayi, what's your assessment of the current situation?
Well, for me, I think the professor, that is the head of INEC, has given us sufficient assurances that the election will go on. And Saturday is a day that they are good to go. It's unfortunate that the postponement happened, and if I were in his shoes and I can see from afar that I was not going to succeed or the election is going to, run riot, I would do what he has done. Because if the man had rushed to that election and he fails, definitely the nation will be on its neck by now. So it is better late than never. And election management process is not easy. In the early part of 1993, in the early 90s, I was involved in electoral process management as head of political education in Kwara and /Kogi State. And we went around most of the country, and particularly Kwara State and Kogi that I covered. The terrain is horrible. Even crossing rivers. Maybe I should just say it. I met an INEC official who was afraid to cross the river to take a speedboat. So Nigeria is a huge country. The terrain is so complicated. And for this man to transmit all these electoral materials to the nooks and crannies of this country certainly is not easy.
All right. Prof, what are your impressions?
Well, we have, all the while, since the postponement, we've been listening to the chairman of INEC, major spokesperson, like the person who's in the studio here. And just like Ajayi said, it is better to late than never. The efficiency of the process is very important. This, like you talk about sacrosanct, the event, the program is very sacrosanct, is very, very key to the future of this country. And if there's anything was going to bring about crisis, around it. It's better that you push it some days, forward, and then be able to plan and then get it right. So the important thing is that eventually all is well that ends well. That's the way.
All right,
that's our hope.
Okay, all right, gentlemen, just stay with us for a moment. We'll come back to you later on. But for now, let's go over to our Ibadan Network Center. Femi Johnson is right there, and he'll take us through. Femi.
Thank you, Cyril. Nigerians looking forward to the hottest and most discussed event at the moment. And 2,934,107 eligible voters in Oyo State on standby. Looking forward to what will happen on Saturday. I have with me in the studio the resident electoral commissioner in Oyo State, Mutiwa Boke.
Thank you. Good to see you.
Also with me is the assistant commissioner of police in Oyo State in charge of operations, Abimbola Olugbenga.
Thank you for having me.
To start with, resident electoral commissioner, what's the situation report on our sensitive materials?
Okay, thank you. After the issue of postponement, as announced by the headquarters of the commission, we deposited all our sensitive material with CBN, and of course, we've started following the fresh manuals released by the chairman. And as I speak to you now, we just left CBN this morning after we have succeeded in ensuring that these sensitive materials were distributed to all the 33 local governments. As I speak to you, Oyo State is one of those states mentioned by my national commissioner there. So if you go to our various local governments now, materials are there. That shows we are ready.
What about the issue of the reconfiguration of the card?
No, everything goes together because one thing must happen before the other. We completed our configuration 2 days ago, and all our smart card readers are in all the local government. Smart card reader, sensitive material, ballot papers, result sheet, all of them in the local government.
So if you are talking about that now, there is one particular issue as far as Saturday's election is concerned, stamp at the back. Some people are saying when you collect your ballot paper, you should look at the back whether there's going to be a stamp or whether there's going to be some. What is actually the thing? What should they look out for?
No, what they should look out for is what you have said. There's need for further authentication of what you are carrying, because anybody can claim to be carrying anything called ballot paper. Part of the election procedure on that day is that having been issued with that ballot paper, there will be an official stamp at the back, not just stamping. The person who stamped it will also ensure that his details, particulars are put there. What I mean, the name and, signature, date of that person. That shows that you are carrying authentic ballot paper for the purpose of casting your vote.
Let's move to security. You are still at Ibadan Network Center, watching us on the preparations for the election that will be coming up on Saturday. Security in Oyo State, how are we?
We are set. We have made our preparations. We've carried out a threat analysis, and we've made our deployment after identifying all the polling units with INEC. And we've been engaging stakeholders in the state. We've informed them to know that election is not war. They should allow everybody to have a free hand during campaign, and it has been so. Now that the election proper is here, we know there will be peace.
If you have engaged stakeholders, what about your police personnel? What have you actually engaged them on?
Yeah, they have been engaged in security training on election by INEC. We have briefed them, and we have told them that they should be professional to avoid being adjudged as partisan.
So how many policemen are we expecting in each polling unit? Or what's your advice also to voters?
Yes, as regards the number of policemen, it depends on the threat. There might be 3, there might be more than that. And as to the voters, we are encouraging them to go out and vote. There will be no molestation that day, as there will be adequate protection.
The last question I'm going to ask you before I get back to Cyril. We observe the facing of posters in Ibadan, some parts of Oyo State. Is this not within the purview of security officials?
Yes, it's part of it's within the purview. We've received reports, and there are investigations going on.
Before I get back to you, Siri, let me ask Muti Agboke the last question too. Are you having any influence by any politician or politicians as far as this election is concerned? Because report that we have had is that in Oyo State is going to be a very, very tense and pensive mood, and as such, the only person that they can influence is you. Any influence?
No, there's never been any influence. I've been here in Oyo State for more than 1 year. We have been having it good. You know, we have been engaging our stakeholders. And if you look at the atmosphere in Oyo State, it's peaceful. Nothing is tense here. It's very peaceful. People are very, very anxious to come out on Saturday and vote. Apathy does not exist here. If you go and ask them, they will tell you, INEC postponed 100 times. Our PVC is still remain original.
So your message to the people?
My message is that on Saturday, go out, choose whoever you want. INEC will ensure that your vote counts. And nobody can deny you your voting right.
Thank you, Muti Agboke. I equally to thank you, Assistant Commissioner of Police Operations. Cyril, I want to let you know too that in Oyo State we are having 50.38% of females that will be participating in the election, and also 49.62% of male. Take it from there, Cyril.
That's good. That's good, and I like the doggedness of the voters there as well. You know that come rain, come shine, even in the face of 1 million postponements, they're going out there with that weapon. That's the PVC to do the country right. Thank you, Femi. We'll be checking in with you later on. But right now, we have a report on INEC preparation for the election in Bauchi State. It's by Muazu Hassan, and we'll take it now.
You promise to ensure that journalists are carried along throughout all the processes. Does it mean that there is something INEC is actually not?
INEC has nothing to hide anything. What we are doing is part of it. All the stakeholders, especially the political parties, their representatives and the representative of the candidates are there with us. So there is nothing hiding. All we are saying, we have to abide by the provision of the CBN in allowing, we cannot be allowed, this is a financial institution, as they say to us, and they have their own internal settings. We cannot go against their own. So all we need, we are just telling the truth, and we are showing it to the representative of the political parties, and when it comes out, we are briefing the press on it.
The restriction is from CBN, not INEC.
It's not INEC.
All right, thank you very much. And at this point in time, we'll go over to our Benin Center. Agatha Egwari-Ujo is right there, and she'll take us through the preparations in Benin. Hello.
Thank you for joining us in Benin. Here we have the Edo State Commissioner of Police, Dan Malam Mohammed. He will be telling us preparations, of course, as regards security. You're welcome to Nigerian Decides Studio from Benin, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, let's go straight to the questions. How prepared is your command?
The Edo State Police Command, we are fully prepared. We have already made adequate deployment of our personnel in synergy with other security agents, like the Nigerian military, the DSS, and others. And we are conscious of the fact that the whole world, their attention is on Nigeria because of next Saturday general election. And the important thing here is for us to provide adequate security before, during, and after the election. And the Inspector General of Police, IGP Mohammed Abubakar Adamu, NP and MNI, has directed us that we should be neutral, we should be fair, and we should ensure that each and everybody have that sense of security. So we are calling on members of public to come out in large numbers to exercise their franchise. We are here to provide adequate security for them 24/7. They should not fear anything. We are going to give them that adequate security protection.
So with the deployment done, you're satisfied with the deployed officers on ground?
We are very, very satisfied.
Okay, all right, sir. But in the last few days, there has been a spate of killings in Benin, in parts of Benin City, court-related killings. Would this have any effect on the process?
For your information, we have taken a very, very serious measure. We embark on consistent raiding of all those criminal hideouts. As of today, we have over 70 suspects in our custody. We recover a lot of arms and ammunition, and the operation is ongoing. Even as I'm talking to you now, currently, our operatives, they are following them, and we make sure that we give the members of public that sense of security. So we are appealing to them, they should come out and exercise their civic responsibility without any fear of intimidation. Okay.
Are you anticipating any issues, any problems?
You know, politically, Edo State is calm and peaceful. So, but despite that, still, we are not taking any chance. Where we have a good synergy with other security agents. So, for anybody to think that he will come out and disturb the peace of Edo State, we are going to resist them with maximum force.
Now, lastly, what will you be saying to Nigerians, especially Edo people, as they come out on Saturday to vote?
Yeah, as I rightly said, they should come out in large number and exercise their constitutional responsibility without any fear of intimidation.
All right. Commissioner of Police Dan Malam Mohammed has been talking to us on security preparations ahead of Saturdays. And away from security, reports reaching us from INEC, from our correspondent Kochukuka Ona, says that sensitive materials have been deployed to the 18 local government areas of Edo State. From Ekiti, Ayodejo Gunshaki also tells us that INEC has distributed sensitive materials there. He also says traditional and religious leaders have admonished citizens on peaceful conduct all through the process. For now, that's all from here. Cyril, it's back to you.
Thank you, Agatha. Right, next is a report on the preparations in Anambra State, INEC's preparations in Anambra State, and we have Uchenna Wekoyo in Oka with that report.
This is the Central Bank of Nigeria, Oka, the Anambra State capital, and it is the redistribution of sensitive materials to all the 21 local government area of the state. The materials which were already distributed to all the local governments by last Friday had to be returned to the vault of the CBN following the postponement of the election. Briefing journalists and other stakeholders, which comprise of representatives of the political parties in Anambra State and election observers, the Independent National Electoral Commissioner in Anambra State, Nkwachuku Orji, revealed that the burnt smart card readers in Anambra State has been replaced. The Independent National Electoral Commission Anambra State got assistance from 12 states to replace the burnt smart card.
We quickly activated the configuration of those smart card readers. It was a bit easy for us because already some processes of the configuration had been done in the stage from where we received them.
Some of the representatives of the political parties expressed fear over what they called non-customization of the House of Representatives result sheet.
We didn't get to have the details of what was distributed earlier as against what was brought in, and we're expecting to have all that here so that we'll do a comparative analysis of what we are going to receive today.
We are really worried about the integrity of the materials that had gone to the field. We are greatly worried. It's gone into the hands of a multiplicity of persons.
And there are several security features that are embedded in a result sheet. All of these are meant to just confirm the integrity and authenticity of a document.
These are sensitive materials that have been taken to Anambra West local government area. After a series of scrutiny by representatives of the political parties in Anambra State, they have been certified and they are being loaded into the truck. With the distribution of these sensitive materials to all the polling units in Anambra State, the Independent National Electoral Commission has promised not to disappoint the people again, but to ensure a seamless conduct of the exercise come Saturday. Daniel Lokbai, NTA News.
Well, of course, that report was by Daniel Okpai, as you heard there. Well, for the presidential election, we have some 73 candidates, right?
Yes.
73.
Yes.
That's a huge number, isn't that?
Yes, it is.
Well, we have the profiles of a number of them, not anywhere near 73, but let's look at the profiles of some of them. We'll begin with Omoyele Sowore of the African Action Congress.
The name Omoyele Sowore sure rings a bell in Nigeria. He is one of the journalists that carved a niche for themselves in investigative reportage and established one of the most recognized online media. Now, Sowore has become a politician and is running for the highest position in the country. Born on February 16, 1971, in the Niger Delta region of the country where he was also raised, Omoyele Sowore hails from Eseudu in Ondo State, southwest Nigeria. He is one of the younger candidates in the 2019 presidential elections. He studied geography and planning at the University of Lagos and holds a master's degree in public administration from Columbia University. At a relatively young age, disdain for oppression and passion for civil rule manifested in Sowore. This shot him to limelight when, at the University of Lagos, Sowore was deeply involved in anti-military demonstrations and student unionism. This culminated in his election as president of the Student Union government, where he served between 1992 and 1994. But then, he paid the price, apparently for standing up to the powers that be. He was an active player in the June 12 pro-democracy struggle, and his activism on several fronts led to his incarceration in different detention centers at different times across the country. In 1999, Omoyele Sowore fled the country to the United States of America. Inspired by the need to continue to contribute to the development of his country, he set up in 2005 Sahara Reporters, a citizen journalism online medium which has consistently exposed corruption in the Nigerian establishment. As a way of remaining above board, Sahara Reporters has the policy of not accepting adverts and financial support from the Nigerian government, but rather supported by grants from international donors. After years of journalism, Sowore's passion for good administration took another turn.
Without good people getting involved in politics, politics will always be the same. So there's a difference between what Nigeria is about, a very vibrant society, and the kind of leadership it has.
He ventured into politics, and in August 2018, Omoyele Sowore declared his intention to vie for the presidency on the platform of the African Action Congress, the AAC. His early declaration yielded results as he was elected presidential candidate of the party.
All right, the profile of the presidential candidate of the African Action Congress, AAC, Omoyele Sowore. Abdullahi Muhammad is the name of our anchor in our Kaduna Network Center. And at this point, we'll link up with him to take us through what's happening in Kaduna at this time. Abdullahi.
Thank you for joining us here in Kaduna Serial. I have in the studio two gentlemen, one representing the Kaduna State Police Command and the other from the Independent National Electoral Commission. Mr. Ahmed Abdurrahman is the Commissioner of Police, Kaduna State. Thanks for coming to our studios this time around.
Thanks for having me.
And Awal Muhammad Mashi is also the Administrative Secretary, the Independent National Electoral Commission, Kaduna State.
Hello, good evening.
Let me begin by asking the Commissioner of Police to talk to us on issues of security. We know that in Kaduna State there are a lot of flashpoints, and even recently, there are issues of security that come up. People might express concern that they might not, be able to come out as that day to cast their vote, especially in those areas, that we know there are flashpoints. What do you have to tell those people?
Well, what I will tell those people is that Kaduna, despite our challenges, is peaceful. we have prepared the ground where every eligible voter will come out unmolested to exercise his franchise. And also those areas that even was were on flashpoints as the crisis erupted, there is no much problem. We've nipped the problem in the bud, and people are now moving. Patrols are there to safeguard the people and to guarantee them that they can come out anytime. In fact, our deployment to all the areas, all the 23 local governments have been completed, and as I'm talking to you right now, we have secured all the sensitive and non-sensitive materials to their destinations by this evening. We have finished before I entered this place, from Central Bank and INEC office to the local governments. So everybody is now assured of his safety to come out and cast his votes. We have deployed our men. Our operation order has spelled out the duties of each and every policeman at where, when, and how to do it. And we are even guaranteed by the Inspector General of Police, IGP Muhammad Adamu, that we will get more security personnel. Not only that, he had approved the deployment of technical forces, including the helicopter, surveillance helicopter, that will help us to patrol and also make, surveillance. So I don't foresee any problem, and I'm assuring each and every person in our own, command to come out and vote without any molestation.
Malamashi, tell us where we are, as of today in terms of the distribution of, sensitive materials and the readiness, for the election.
Okay, I think I want to concur with what the Commissioner of Police had just said. As at 2 p.m. this afternoon, and we are talking about today being Thursday, a couple of days before the general elections that have been rescheduled for the 23rd, we have completed dispatch of everything from the non-sensitive to the semi-sensitive to the sensitive materials. Everything is either along the way to the local governments or already at the local government centers. Our electoral officers have been up and doing. We have been liaising with all the staff of the commission at all levels, and like I said, we are good to go. The smart card readers have already been configured a couple of days ago, well ahead of schedule, and like I said, we've taken everything, sensitive and non-sensitive materials, to the local government. What remains now is for us to open the rack centers, and the public, as the public is probably aware, the rack centers are supposed to be opened by 9 a.m. tomorrow, and they will be pregnant with our personnel by noon tomorrow, or at worst after the Friday prayers tomorrow. So even there, I think we are very, very good.
I want you to shed more light on the issue of, joining the queue to cast your vote. Some people are saying if you're on the queue till 2 p.m., it might end at that place. Please try to,
You see, this issue of 2 o'clock, 2 o'clock is really not sacrosanct. The fact of the matter is that if you are on the queue even after 2 o'clock, despite the fact that there is going to be voting and accreditation simultaneously, you will still cast your vote, however long it takes. Okay. So I think we have no problem with that, even if it is after 2 o'clock, as long as you were on the queue before 2 o'clock, because any person coming after 2 o'clock would be stopped by the APO3 and other security operatives that are within the polling unit. Okay. So even after 2 o'clock, as long as you were there before 2 o'clock, you will still cast your vote.
Okay.
However long it takes.
Let me talk to the Commissioner of Police now finally. What exactly is any voter going to see as far as security is concerned once he or she approaches to the polling unit?
Yes, immediately a voter comes to the polling units, he will see security men, not only police, because we are working in synergy with all other security agencies. So he may likely in the station see policemen and civil defense and also custom or immigration. They will work cooperatively and for the same goal. So everywhere is secured, and we are guaranteeing a very peaceful conduct of the 2019 elections.
Thank you very much, gentlemen, for coming to our studios this time around.
Thank you very much.
And Cyril, it's over to you now for the continuation of Nigeria Decides. That's what you can take here.
Thank you, Abdullahi. Well, we have more reports, more situation reports. The next one is coming from Ogun State, and this report is by Segun Lawali.
Having taken delivery of sensitive and non-sensitive materials for the rescheduled election, INEC in Ogun State has commenced the redeployment of these materials to all the registration area centers across the 20 local government areas of Ogun State. Right here at Abuja South, INEC officials are busy sorting out these materials for onward distribution to these wards.
Yeah, of course, you know, the Resident Commissioner have been very, very open. He has been very, very transparent. In fact, when we asked him all this question, you know, he told us that no EO should give us any figure below what was given to us.
The non-sensitive materials that were returned was counted and cross-checked by various party agents. So also the sensitive materials.
INEC is not ready to have scattered election. And the information I have is nearly all the states. In fact, let me put it, all the states are already having their materials. So we have also started, and we will complete it hopefully today.
For the general elections in Ogun State, a total of 2,375,000 electorates have been registered to partake in the elections, because some have yet to claim their voter cards. Back to the studio.
Right, thank you very much, Segun. More reports coming in. This time around, we're going over to our Port Harcourt Center. Donald Loverijo is right there. Donald, good to see you. Well, you've had the opportunity of listening to the situation reports from other parts, and we're raring to hear what you have to say about what's going on in Port Harcourt. Donald, it's over to you.
Cyril, welcome to Port Harcourt. The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, in Rivers State says it has commenced the distribution of sensitive electoral materials from the Central Bank office in Port Harcourt to the various local government areas. Kingsley Morgan is at the INEC office. Kingsley, what can you tell us there?
We are at the head office of INEC in Rivers State to bring you updates of activities ahead of the rescheduled general elections holding across the states in Nigeria. With me here is the head of INEC Voter Education and Publicity, Mr. Edwin Enabo.
Very much. The process of distribution of the materials started day before yesterday with the batching of the materials at the Central Bank. So after the batching day before yesterday we did the sharing to the various local government areas. We took virtually the whole day. By this morning, the materials will now be moved by the electoral officers to the various local government areas. All they have to do is go with their vehicles and police escort and pick up their material, which have already been shared according to their LGAs.
We've been hearing in terms of across other states. Are there instances like that in Rivers?
We have not seen those mix-ups yet. You know, the thing is, in states where they were able to detect that kind of thing, it was as a result of that some states had already deployed, they had collected materials out of Central Bank, and some had deployed to the local government areas before the postponement, which they now had to bring back.
Talking about the materials you say the electoral officers are taking delivery today, which of them?
What we are talking about now are the results sheets and the ballot papers. Ancillary things that have to do with the election itself. Those are the sensitive materials which are still in the Central Bank. All the other materials have been with the local government electoral officers, and I'm sure they deployed those ones to the rack centers, and they had to do reverse logistics after postponement. But I'm sure by today they will have started thinking of how to share them and send them back to the rack centers. The rack centers will be reactivated tomorrow.
What is the level of security on your own part?
Well, the INEC is not a security agency. For the purpose of the election, we have an interagency consultative committee on election security. The chairman of that committee is the Commissioner of Police. They have assured the Commission of a peaceful environment during elections, and that's the best we can go.
Taken from this end, we'll be handing you back to the Nigerian Decide studio for the continuation of the program.
Ahead of the rescheduled presidential and National Assembly elections, Nigerians resident in Uyo have expressed readiness to come out en masse to vote. Edidiong Iba reports.
It is a few days to the rescheduled presidential and National Assembly elections, and expectations are high here. Gone is the anger and disappointment which greeted the postponement of the polls, as much more the people expressed readiness to go all out Saturday at the 2,980 polling units across the state. This is Ibom Plaza, the city center, where you're sure to get all the trending news as it happens. And obviously, here today, the headline is the Saturday's presidential and National Assembly elections. And then, of course, we'll have to find out from the people how ready they are for Saturday's. Here, Mr. Ime Eshet, and he'll be talking to us on his readiness for Saturday's election. Sir, how ready are you?
Well, thank you. I'm ready, and everybody, I guess, is ready. You know, from what is going on, the INEC has assured us that they are ready for the elections.
So I'm going to vote that will lead me well.
We have no other nation than this, so I am prepared to have my PVC. Despite that the other one was postponed, we can't give up. So I would advise people that should not give up. So Saturday, we are ready, I'm ready.
I have to perform my civic duty. I will vote, but my spirit down.
Beyond just voting their preferred candidates, their expectations are high, and only a free, fair and transparent process is what the people say will guarantee the fulfillment of these expectations.
That our leaders, the president is going to be, should find out what are the poor masses, what is their major aim, what their major lack, what they expect.
Nigeria will continue to soar higher.
When you get to government, you should improve the economy of our country.
From these responses, the readiness of Nigerians residents in Uyo with regards to Saturday's presidential and National Assembly elections is not in doubt. In Uyo, Edidiong Iba, NTA News.
Thank you, Edidiong. Now back to the studio. I have with me in the studio here Mr. Edwin Enabo, INEC Head of Voter Education and Publicity, Rivers State. I have a question for you. Yes. The turnout, the reaction of Nigerians, as we've seen in some of the reports that we've got in your area of operation, what has that to do with the quality of publicity and education from your organization?
Yes, thank you very much. I can say from the reports we have been hearing that the Commission's efforts at voter education for this election is yielding a lot of results. Most of the people now have their PVCs and they are ready to make use of the PVCs. During the collection of PVCs, we had people who registered as far back as 2011 who had abandoned their at the INEC offices, but as a result of our sensitization and voter education, most of them turned up to come and collect those PVCs from our offices with the intention of using them during the election that's coming up.
Well, I want to thank you very much. Before we hand control back to Cyril in Abuja,
thank you very much.
Right, thank you, Donald. We're back here in our Abuja studio, and it's time to go back to the profile of some of the presidential candidates. Now let's get to see the profile of candidate Muhammad Buhari of the All Progressives Congress, APC.
Another day approaches for Nigerians to decide on who leads the most populous black nation in the world for the next 4 years. The election is as significant as it comes. not only coming in the year the country marks 20 years of uninterrupted democratic rule. The contest is apparently between the incumbent president, Muhammadu Buhari, on the platform of the All Progressives Congress, APC, and a principal challenger, former Vice President Atiku Abubakar, who was once a member of the ruling party. But then, the February 16, 2019 poll is never going to be the first test of political might for President Muhammadu Buhari. Buhari started his test of tenacity as the only male and last of the 9 children of his mother in Dumurkwa, outskirts of Daura, Katsina State. Amongst a few fortunate children, young Buhari started his education at the town school No. 1, Daura, and completed his secondary school education at the provincial secondary school, Katsina, as a head boy in 1961. At this moment of his life, a forthright and disciplined Buhari already had a foresight of a future he desired. He chose a career in the military as he was enlisted in the Nigerian army in 1961 and 2 years later trained as officer cadet in Aldershot, England. From a second lieutenant in 1963, Muhammadu Buhari progressed steadily in his career and held command posts at several divisions in the army and subsequently became a military governor and minister of petroleum. In 1983, a bigger task, yet another national assignment, beckoned. After a coup of December 31st, 1983, a tested and trusted Muhammadu Buhari was chosen by his colleague to lead the nation in a new direction. It was the time Nigeria desperately needed to fight indiscipline and inculcate the culture of civil responsibility in Nigerians.
And because of his anti-corruption character, that was why his military colleagues thought it fit to put him, because they know that nobody will fault him.
We knew there was insecurity, we knew there was corruption, we knew there was all sorts of vices within the society. Once we establish that, then we begin to look for the man who is fit, who is capable to provide solutions to some of these problems. And at that time, Buhari fit in very well because he was a good soldier, quite honest. He's a man of his mind.
The military regime of the anti-corruption crusader was short-lived, but then his contribution to national development was far from being over. He withdrew to private life and was close to a decade in retirement before he was called upon by late General Sani Abacha in the mid-90s to pioneer the Petroleum Trust Fund, PTF. Under his watch, the excess accrues from fuel subsidy removal was utilized to improve all aspects of the nation's socio-economic life. Following the return of democracy in Nigeria in 1999, General Muhammadu Buhari offered to serve the nation again, but this time as a Democrat. But on his first 3 attempts at the post, Buhari only ended up challenging his defeat up to the Supreme Court. He contested on the platform of ANPP against the then incumbent president Olusegun Obasanjo in 2003 and against late Umar Musa Yar'Adua in 2007. Though, in the later, the declared winner, Yar'Adua, accepted the fact that the electoral process that produced him was flawed. Following unresolved differences, the dogged politician formed a new political party, Congress for Progressive Change, CPC, and contested the presidential election in 2011 against the then-sitting president, Goodluck Ebele Jonathan. Again, he lost.
This decision of the Supreme Court is politically motivated and has little judicial content. This Supreme Court has proved no better than the Supreme Court of 2003 and 2007.
The outcome of that election, which Buhari also challenged up to the Supreme Court, made him to announce never to participate in elections again. But Nigerians who believed in the Buhari phenomenon would not take his no for an answer.
And that September, I said to him, you know, General, the situation that Nigeria is going to be in 4 years may be such that you may have to run. He was very angry with me because he said, I'm a man of my words, I will not go back on my words. I said, but you are not running for president for yourself. You've been president before. You are running for president for all of us. Therefore, it is not your decision alone.
Towards the 2015 general elections, what turned out to be a defining moment, a merger of major opposition political parties, altered the political permutation and the history of democracy in Nigeria. The APC, which emerged after the coalition, has change as its slogan.
I humbly wish to present myself before you.
Then, Buhari changed his mind, contested the presidential ticket with other 4 aspirants and emerged as the candidate.
Muhammadu Buhari as the winner.
And then, the APC metamorphosed from just a political party to a national movement, as Buhari was seen as the answer to what Nigerians were practically yearning for: fight against corruption, improved security and economic development. This led to an unprecedented feat in the honors of Nigerian democracy. A sitting president was unseated and the go-getter achieved what he had longed for more than 12 years.
Muhammadu Buhari of APC, having satisfied the requirements of the law and scored the highest number of votes, is hereby declared the winner and is returned elected.
And now, more than 3 years into his democratic leadership, President Muhammad Buhari is at the poll again on the quest for his second term in office.
The candidate of the All Progressives Congress, Muhammadu Buhari. Well, let's return to the studio here, where we still have the INEC National Commissioner in charge of Information and Voter Education, Mr. Festus Okoye. Now, you've listened to reports from different parts of the country, from our correspondents and from those we had in the studio. One thing seems to be going around all of them. That's the question of the integrity of INEC materials, the ones that have been sent out before, and what it would be like, and if there's any chance of any of those materials being compromised or cloned. I think my colleague in Ibadan took up the question with your official right there. So tell us again about the integrity of INEC materials.
Our materials have integrity. All these materials, before the when these materials arrived the country from various parts, from the places where they were being printed, these materials arrived under heavy security and were picked up by the central bank, together with officials of the Independent National Electoral Commission. And all these materials were moved to the various states, to the central bank of the various states, under heavy security. And they have been there. When these materials were being moved out preparatory to the February 16, 2019 rescheduled elections, they were moved out under the watchful eye of the various party agents, the security agencies, international and domestic observers, to the various local governments. And in the various local governments, they were under heavy security. As at the time we took the decision to reschedule the elections, most of the materials were still under heavy security at the various local government offices of the commission. And then the moment we took the decision, we did inform every resident electoral commissioner to begin reverse logistics, to reverse the materials back to the central bank. It was only, I think, in 2 states or so that the materials had gone to the registration area centers. But even at the registration area centers, the materials were still intact. All the materials to be used for this particular election have security features. And only the chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission and the security printers have these security features in relation to both the ballot papers and the result sheets.
So even you don't know about it. You have no access to it.
No, I don't have access to it. Right. And some of the security, some of the ballot papers are color coded specific to some local governments and specific to some registration areas and specific to some states. So it is really not possible to compromise any of our materials. We've seen some things that looks like ballot papers and so on circulating up and down. Those are not ballot papers or ballot or materials meant for this particular election. Moreover, the moment you get to the polling unit, the moment the presiding officer hands over a ballot paper to you, that ballot paper must be signed and dated. And no undated ballot paper or unsigned ballot paper will be valid for the election. Moreover, before somebody will even be given a ballot paper, the person must go through the accreditation process using the smart card reader and the permanent voters card. So I think our processes are foolproof, and our processes will be monitored or observed by representatives of 73 political parties who will be at the polling unit. And these representatives of the political parties are with the ballot papers and the ballot boxes and all the sensitive, semi-sensitive, and non-sensitive materials at the various local governments under the watchful eye of the different security agencies that will be involved in this election. So I think that there's no cause for alarm. There's nothing to fear.
Right, Chief Ajayi, come on this point here.
I think the process has been elaborate in terms of security checks, and I don't think they can do more than that. And I want to say that INEC has borrowed a leaf from previous errors by different regimes conducting election, and they try to perfect everything. I know while they are perfecting their best, some people are also planning to sabotage. Right? You know, that has been the process. But so far from what we have heard from the INEC chairman, the security check has been elaborate, and I hope the election will be successful.
Prof, we got a great lens to ensure this thing we call transparency, trust, and in all the elections we hold. Do you think this is the culture here? Is this peculiar to this part, or these are necessary issues in elections generally?
Oh, well, let me say, with reference to INEC here, INEC is a key and, in fact, a leading actor in this program, in this event that is going to happen on the 23rd of February. But there are other actors.
Right.
First on the list of other actors are the politicians. And second, the citizenry, particularly the electorate. You know, because it's all citizens that, you know, fall under the category of electorate. But let me say that the proclivity of politicians is principally responsible for the foibles in our election. Are you following what I'm saying? Because even Queen INEC in the past, or based on allegation or founded facts, you know, you can associate INEC with any foible in the process of election. You must ultimately pin it down to the conduct and antics of politicians. So we've talked so much about INEC, but the politicians are fundamental. They are fundamental in the sense because they are the people, they are the major precursors of the foibles, the problems. I can even assure you, even the postponement and everything. But it's not everything that meets the eye. And for the purpose of integrity of the process and for the purpose of national development and for the purpose of the integrity of the democratic process, not everything that INEC has been able to say. So that's one part. The other part is the citizens. It takes two to tango. The manipulator, you see what I'm saying? And the manipulated. You see what I'm saying? So the politicians manipulate the citizens. And this time, the whole battle cry about the potency of the PVC and the slogans that have gone with it. 2017, a coalition of civil society organizations in Kenya, they call it Your Vote, Your Voice. They put it in Swahili, but because I cannot recant it. Right. Your vote, your voice. You know, that kind of a thing. On the part of citizens, I don't think that an analogous, an equivalent coalition of civil society has done what it should do. But I think it is this particular TV station that came up with some kind of, what do you mean, like a metaphor, it's like a drama, where they brought two hypothetical communities. Atana and Ikolo. One community decided to take money
exchange for votes.
Right.
Another one decided to ask for basic social services. At the end of the day, the one that decided to vote so as to get basic services demanded it as of right. So what I'm saying is, in next round of talk, let's focus again, because I've focused sufficiently upon INEC. We have to focus upon the antics of politicians.
How well have the politicians helped to advance the cause of democracy generally and the voting process in particular?
Well, I see Nigerian politicians are very funny in character. They have not helped the system at all. Even the last postponement, they made a lot of noise. And I expected them to encourage, to look at the reasons given by INEC and then encourage them. Look at the problems associated with the postponement and encourage INEC to, to do a better program. But rather, the Nigerian politicians were just crying wolf where there was none. Even saying that they were rigging, ballot papers were already given to some people. PVCs were being handed over to some people, whereas it has not left anywhere. So the politicians are basically the problem. They incite the electorate and confuse the political terrain in an attempt to also blackmail the electoral umpire. And then as a preparatory ground towards if there was any problem in the course of election, maybe they lose, they put the problems or the fault at the doorstep of INEC. So our own politicians in Nigeria have not helped the political process at all. They cry wolf where there's none and tend to create an atmosphere of crisis. And I want to think that they should have learned a lot of lessons from the past and helped Nigerian nascent democracy to grow.
Now the voting public, or even the public generally, but now the voting public, those with the PVCs who, well, we believe would certainly go out on Saturday and use those PVCs. What has been their response to the political developments that we've gone through in the last 1 week, for instance? And from what we have seen from our reports from across the country, can you gauge the feeling, the mood of the electorate?
No, I think in this particular election, I can say uniquely, there has been a lot of sensitization. And the response we are getting is positive. People are beginning, but let me also say that even the crisis we have in the election has something to do. There's a triadic intersection of some factors. One is the kind of governance you have, the level of governance, whether it is good or bad. The other one is illiteracy, and the other one is poverty. And when you begin to untie them, a lot of things associated with them. They are structural, they are cultural. I feel what I'm saying. But I think that the bulk of the voters, particularly the enlightened ones, because that is the problem. Because you might be listening, even in the social media, you have the privilege of feeling the pulse of those who are educated. In the social media, you don't have the privilege of feeling the pulse who are not educated. Some of the electorate, members of the electorate, have their critical faculty held in abeyance by the politicians who are the manipulators. They're like they are hypnotized. Where are we going? And that is why politicians talk about, I will deliver for you. I will deliver. As if you are delivering ships. It's human beings they are delivering. But I think the intersection of poverty, literacy, and misgovernance, which reinforce themselves. You see what I'm saying? Misgovernance brings about poverty and illiteracy. And poverty and illiteracy in turn reinforce misgovernance. How do they reinforce misgovernance? In this process, we are in this sensitive process, you don't make critical decisions, you vote people on the basis of sentiment, you base people on the basis of identity, you base people on the basis not in terms of honesty, not in terms of competence that you can ascertain, but on the basis of some of these things that don't have anything to do with the willingness and the capacity to deliver on public service. Then that means you'll be recruiting incompetent, insensitive, people who are going to serve themselves. I think we have to take it here. I think we are coming. We are moving into it. Because you are going to find, with reference to sub-Saharan Africa, that is a systemic pathology. It's very pervasive. Okay. But we'll take it one by one.
All right, gentlemen, we'll come back to some of those issues later. But now back to the profiles of some of the presidential candidates. Let's look at the profile of the candidate of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, Atiku Abubakar.
Atiku Abubakar, born in November 25, 1946, is the former vice president of Nigeria. He was born in Chada, Adamawa State of northeast Nigeria to Garba Atiku and Aisha Kande Abubakar. Despite the death of his father, who was the breadwinner of their home, Atiku was determined to get an education. He attended Jada Primary School from 1954 to 1960. He thereafter attended Adamawa Provincial Secondary School, Yola, from 1961 to 1965, where he graduated with advanced level certificate in economics, British economic history, government and Hausa language. From 1966 to 1967, he attended the School of Hygiene, Kano, graduating with the Royal Society of Health diploma. He then proceeded to Ahmadu Bello University, Zaria, in 1967, graduating with a diploma in law in 1969. Atiku Abubakar's interest in leadership began at the School of Hygiene in Kano, where he was elected President Students' Union during the Radical Students' Union politics of the 1960s. At the Ahmadu Bello University, Zaria, he was elected Assistant Secretary General and Deputy Speaker of Parliament of Institute of Administration, Congo Campus, Ahmadu Bello University Students' Union. On graduation, Atiku joined the Customs and Excise Department in 1969, serving in Kano, Maiduguri, Kaduna, Seme, Ibadan, and Lagos. He rose to the rank of Deputy Director before retiring meritoriously in 1986. During and after his service, he acquired additional training and education. He attended courses in leadership management, drug enforcement and control in Finland, Egypt, and United States of America. He thereafter went into private business with interest in oil services, agriculture, food and beverages, print media, banking, insurance and pharmaceuticals. Atiku employs thousands of Nigerians through his businesses that include Intels, where he is a co-founder, American University of Nigeria, Standard Microfinance Bank, and among others. Atiku embraced active politics in 1989 under the influence of soldier-turned-politician Shehu Musa Yar'Adua, one of Nigeria's loudest opponents of military rule. Atiku played a prominent role in the pro-democracy movements of the 1990s. He was elected into the National Constitutional Conference of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, representing Genye Mayo Belwa constituency in Adamawa State from 1994 to 1995. His insistence on the exit of the military led to an assassination attempt during the brutal military regime of Sani Abacha. Having survived that, Atiku was harassed and chased into exile in 1995. He contested and won the governorship election of Adamawa State in 1999. However, just before he could be sworn in as governor, he was nominated as the vice presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party, PDP. He was thereafter elected vice president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria and sworn in on May 29, 1999. He was re-elected for a second four-year term as vice president and sworn in on May 29, 2003. In Abuja, Timothy Yusuf, NT News.
All right, the profile of the PDP candidate Atiku Abubakar. Let's now go over to Makudi's studio, and we have sitting in the INEC resident electoral commissioner for Benue State, Dr. Nentawe Yelwadda. Thanks for joining us on Nigeria Decides. Let me just go straight and ask you to give us a cursory look and overview of the preparations you have made so far for Benue State regarding Saturday's elections.
And thank you, Nigeria. We started preparation on Sunday by configuring our SCR smart card readers. We tied it up on Monday. That same Monday, we engaged the stakeholders of the IDPs to give them their own voting centers. We have 27 voting centers across 7 local governments. And also, on that same Monday, we also tied up preparation for transportation of movement of materials to local government. On Tuesday, we did batching. On Wednesday, we started movement of materials. We moved materials to 19 local governments and tied up the movement of sensitive materials today in the morning by 9 o'clock. As it is today, we tied up all the movement of materials to local government. They are batching in local government right now. Across 23 local government, we are batching by RA, that is by simply what people know as the wards. Hopefully by tomorrow Friday, We'll do training of all the POs, presiding officers, assistant presiding officers at each of the wards. Then at the same time, we'll do training of collation officers at the state level and waiting to move to the polling unit early Saturday for election.
Stakeholders who are concerned with what will happen on Saturday, other stakeholders, what's been the level of your cooperation and support you've received so far?
We've received a lot of cooperation from our stakeholders. They are happy with what we've done so far because we engage them in all the opening and closing of distribution materials. We even gave them our own distribution charts. So they distribute those charts down to the local governments, and they also ask them to distribute them down to their party agents at the ward and then at the polling units, so that they know the exact material are coming down to their own local government, down to the polling unit. That transparency has made it easy for us to actually have a cooperation with them. We had a stakeholders meeting on Monday also, where we discuss our timelines and our charts, and we get exactly what we do every day. So they're aware of everything we're doing. On the communities that are having IDPs, we engage all of them also, the stakeholders and people also, even the IDP leaders in the communities, we also engage them. To an extent, for now, we don't have any challenge in Benue State. We're waiting for election come Saturday, 23rd February.
You mentioned it, we were going to put to you the issue of internally displaced persons and how you've been able to cope with with any kinds of challenges that you might face in taking the elections to this group of people. But you've talked about you incorporating them into your meetings, and so far with the IDPs that you have, what can you say about their readiness to be part of this whole process?
They're very, very happy. They're extremely very happy to be part, to be inclusive in this election. We have 27 centers, voting centers, with a minimum of 2 polling units. All the rest are enabled, or about up to 10 polling units, or even 20-something polling units. We have areas where we're going to have over 1,000 of 10,000, 5,000 people voting at one place. So what we did was look at the closest proximity to where they are, whether whether it's lodged and they're settled now, temporary settlement now, and we engage people who are both back home, and we look at safe places that they can vote without molestation. And we also engage the security agencies to be part of it, part of the of this committee that we're working with them, so that they can provide security for them also on election day, so they can safely vote without anybody interfering with their process of voting on election day.
That's good enough. So for them, for all those people who have had to go through the trauma of leaving their original places of abode, they are guaranteed of security, and as well as staff of INEC themselves. You know, there have been reports, rumors and stories of whether people are going to come out en masse in places such as Benue, and they're talking about the security situation. Can you assure all those who are in Benue that you've taken care of all angles to any security challenges that might arise?
Today we met the Interagency Consultative Committee on Electoral Security. We met this morning, and we visited some few locations to even do some checks to see the possibility of having safe places for the people who are displaced to vote. And I can assure you that security arrangements have been made so that everybody can in state. In addition, also, we're even meeting tomorrow again to review our what we did today. So we keep on meeting continuously to review, all possibilities. We've also opened up telephone lines, 4 telephone lines that people can reach us, reach both the security and also reach INEC, so that where there are challenges, we can respond to them quickly. We have also set up a command center in the Nigerian police force, where all the service chiefs will report there, so that people can easily access them. And there are telephone lines also for all indigenous Benue to reach the police stations, to reach the security agencies quickly for any intervention and any response, for quick response across the interstate.
All right. INEC Resident Electoral Commissioner for Benue State, Dr. Nentawe Yilwada, we thank you for giving us that update. Thank you very much. Okay, let's go back to the profiles of another presidential candidate. This time, we bring to you the profile of the candidate of the Young Progressives Party, Kingsley Morgan.
Professor Kingsley Morgan was born in Lagos in 1963 to Isaac Morgan, a Nigerian Foreign Service officer, and Vida Morgan, a school teacher, and spent his early childhood in Switzerland and Washington, D.C., where his father was posted. In the late 1970s and early 1980s, Kingsley was enrolled in the Federal Government College, Enugu. He subsequently became a global leader who has made contributions to the stability, progress, and wealth of nations, societies, and individuals across such domains as academia, economic policy, banking and finance, entrepreneurship, law, and diplomacy. He is the author of several books, and his latest, Build, Innovate, Grow, lays down a detailed blueprint for his goal to restore Nigeria. He is the founder and CEO of Sugato Strategies LLC and previously worked for the United Nations for 17 years, leading successful work in national reconciliation and nation building in fractured societies, risk management, management reform in the UN, and raising billions of dollars for social investments in developing countries by the Global Fund to fight AIDS, tuberculosis, and malaria in Geneva. He returned to Nigeria and was a deputy governor at the Central Bank of Nigeria from 2009 to 2014, leading the team that stabilized the banking industry after the 2008 global financial crisis. In 2015, he returned to the U.S. to become a professor in international business and public policy at the Fletcher School of Law and Diplomacy at Tufts University from 2015 to 2017. Kingsley was educated at the London School of Economics and Political Science, the Fletcher School at Tufts University, University of Nigeria, Nsukka, where he bagged a degree in law, and the Institute of Risk Management in London. He has completed executive leadership programs in economic transformation, macroeconomic management, global leadership, corporate governance and strategy at Harvard Kennedy School, Harvard Business School, and the International Monetary Fund Institute. A keen philanthropist, Kingsley founded the Isaac Morgan Foundation, a non-profit organization that provides support for literacy, educational institutions, and access to education for underprivileged children in rural communities in Nigeria. He is president of the Institute for Governance and Economic Transformation. He is also an international keynote speaker at industry conferences and a frequent commentator in the global media, including CNN, BBC, World TV, Bloomberg, and the Financial Times. Professor Kingsley Morgan hails from Anambra State. In Abuja, Timothy.
Kingsley Morgan, candidate of the Young Progressives Party. And now let's take you to our Enugu studio, where Ifeanyi Okafor is waiting to tell us what's happening there. Ifeanyi, it's over to you.
Thank you, Cyril. Now here in an Enugu Network Center, we have joining us here in the studio, Professor Felix Asogwa. He's the Director, Institute for Peace, Conflict and Development Studies, Enugu State University of Science and Technology, and Adjunct Professor, Coal City University, Enugu. You're welcome to the Nigeria Decide studio.
Thanks so much.
And I also have with me here Chief Superintendent Denny Manuel Iwuchukwu. He is the Public Relations Officer, Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps, Enugu State Command. You're welcome to Nigeria Decide studio.
Thank you very much.
Okay, now, Prof, I'll start with you. Now, going by the sudden postponement of the general elections last Saturday, do you think most people would have lost interest in the elections coming Saturday?
Yeah, frankly speaking, I would say, well, no. Ordinarily, the news about the postponement came as a tsunami. People were really shocked, including myself, but subsequent events really, suited the nerves of electorates. And these included such a reassuring stakeholder summit organized by INEC, where they tried to rebuild the confidence
especially of electors and other key actors in the system. And at the end of that meeting, I think most people were, assured that there was a genuine reason for INEC to adjust. The other thing also, politics, like we know, is a high-value game. People don't just chicken out from political activities because of mere adjustment in a timetable. To that extent, people have high stake. And on the other hand, there have been some palliative measures, especially on the part of both government and other key organizations, to encourage individuals to participate. For instance, we all know Friday has been set aside as a public holiday in Nigeria to enable, electorates and other actors maybe to relocate to their various, localities for this election. Also, we see that maybe some airlines, I know of Arik, I know of Aero, who have sliced the...
So all these are efforts to ensure that people will definitely come back.
I can assure you, the stake is high. Okay. And I think most electors are really prepared, especially down here in Enugu.
Okay, let's go to Dan Emmanuel, who is of the Civil Defense. Now, with what he has said, how prepared is the Civil Defense and the entire security gamut in this election?
Thank you very much. All the security apparatus were working as one. Nigerian Police Force being the lead agency. I want to inform you that we don't have any other business than provision of security to life and property. And we are very much apt to do that. We have all dotted all the I's and crossed all the T's, and we are ready for the election, so the people are assured of their safety while the election lasted.
Okay, now, Professor, now what role really is expected of the political parties and the candidates to ensure that the elections are violence-free? You've heard from the security personnel that they are actually ready.
Yeah, thanks so much. You really cannot divorce the role of the political parties and the candidates, because the two are working towards one direction. Parties projecting candidates for election, and to that extent, their key roles are, one, mobilization of the electorates in terms of conscientization, sensitization, so that they appreciate the value of participating in such electoral process like we have next tomorrow. And to some reasonable extent, I think these political parties are living up to the billing, from one end to the other, campaigning, encouraging voters to come out. And I'm really, so pleased that by Saturday, the turnout will be quite high.
Okay, again, we've actually seen that they have adjusted. Now, but from your own observation and perspective, do you foresee or envisage any logistic challenge?
Well, like every human organization, you can't be certain about what will happen. There are certain variables, that can come into play, intervening variables that even though INEC has assured and reassured Nigerians about their level of preparedness, but this is a human affair. And to that extent, you can't accurately predict whether all their planning will come through. But the important thing is INEC and other agencies that are supposed to be very active in this election should begin to plan ahead in case of, any unforeseen circumstances.
Okay, let's go back to security now. What areas usually do you, your source of security concerns in the elections?
There are many areas where giving our satellites up. The issue of thuggery, snatching of ballot boxes, and the rest of them. Because these areas have given us a headache in the time past. And have taken time to give it due attention. And we are prepared right now to match it head on. Because there's no room for nonsense this time around. Because Nigeria must move forward. And anybody who is out to make trouble should relocate from Enugu State, as a matter of fact. Because we're all out to make sure that the election is free and fair.
Okay, I must thank you, gentlemen, for your time on the program Nigeria Decides, right here in our Enugu Network Center. I'm handing over back to Cyril for continuation of Nigeria Decides.
Thank you, Ifeanyi. Good to see you, by the way. Now we have more reports on the preparations and INEX preparations in some of the states. We have this one from Ekiti, I believe, and this is by Ayodiji Ogunshaki.
The distribution of the sensitive materials in the presence of relevant key players aired at the CBN office in Ado-Ekiti with materials to cover the 2,195 polling units of the 177 wards in the 16 local government areas of the state for the presidential and national assembly elections.
What follows from that is to monitor activities of the electoral officers in the local governments. Then we go out fine on Saturday.
Most of the materials are available, and as it stands, the only 3 materials that are not present as a result of mix-up, we have agreed that those materials be returned to the coffers of the CBN while they bring the correct one.
We've gotten the exact promise, the INEC promise that they are going to fulfill to the standard we are expecting.
What we are doing now is alerting our own people at the various local governments so that they can follow the materials to their various local governments.
INEC has also completed the reconfiguration of the smart card readers for the conduct of the elections and distributed to the local government area offices of the Commission ahead of the elections. Meanwhile, religious leaders, including the President General League of Imams and Nafas in the southwest, Edo and Delta states, Alhaji Jamiu Keulere, and traditional rulers have enjoined Nigerians to exhibit acts of patriotism to their fatherland and abstain from all forms of violence in their conduct at the poll, while urging INEC and security operatives to be neutral in their duties during the elections.
Let us preach peace and continue to shun violence, for where there is peace, then we'll be able to live successfully. Let us work at peace with all men.
Please go out, arm themselves with their PVC, and vote for the candidate of their choice. It's an opportunity that everybody has to go and demonstrate your wish.
Who said they are in the mood to go into the Saturday elections to elect the candidates of their choice in Ado-Ekiti. Ayodiji Ogunshaki, NTA News.
All right. Peace before, during, and after elections. That's the subject of most of the discussions in Ondo State ahead of Saturday's elections. Olubukola Aduo has been on the streets of Akure.
Thank you, studio. As Nigerians prepare to vote come February 23 for the presidential and national assembly elections, stakeholders in Akure, Ondo State have advised the electorate to tread the path of peace, ensure a violence-free electoral process, and accept the outcome of the election in good faith.
The political elite must not make election a do-or-die affair. They must accept when they lose.
We ask for peaceful election. The government, everybody should make it transparent, peaceful, so that everybody should have access in their polling unit.
We shouldn't cause a chaos of violence into our society. We should come out in earnest to vote for the person that we wish to vote for.
In all that we need to do as citizens, we must ensure that Nigeria will remain strong at the end of the election, and no one should cause havoc or chaos or crisis of any form.
They also urge the political class to put in place measures necessary for the prevalence of peace in the country. It's back to you in the studio.
All right, thank you, Olubukola. Now let's go over and find out what the preparations are like in Adamawa, and this report is by Riyanu Bala.
This is the INEC headquarters in Yola, Adamawa State. The office is less busy because all the sensitive materials have been deployed to the 21 local government areas. The INEC office in Yola North local government was a beehive of activities as last-minute preparation is ongoing to further convey the election materials to the registration area centers.
Complying with our processes and procedures, guidelines and laws on election management. We are also concerned with the issue of the fact that the mandate of the people must count.
I am Rayanu Bala, and it's back to you in the studio.
All right, thank you very much. And still more reports ahead, this time from Sakkwato and Abdurrahman Jibrila has this report.
We are reaching you live from the INEC office in Sokoto. With me is the head of voter education and publicity, Muhammad Musa Sokoto. Sir, we would like to know your level of preparation with regards to Saturday's election in Sokoto State.
Well, I want to assure you that we are ready for the election. We are good to go. Because as I speak with you, we have received our materials adequately and in the right quantity. And we have also sorted, and we are about to start going to the field with the material, to put the material to the local government. Then we have reconfigured our card readers, and now we are charging them for deployment to local government. And as with regard to transportation, we have concluded with the NURTW, and they have brought enough vehicle to us, which we are going to use on tomorrow and next tomorrow for conveyance of our ad hoc staff to the RA level and the various units on Saturday morning. And we have adequately trained our ad hoc staff, and I want to assure Nigerians on the election day they will see high level of professionalism in the conduct of election in this country. And now as I speak to you, another round of training is also going on ad hoc staff. This is also to enhance their capacity and capability on the election day.
Well, viewers, that has been the head of voter education and publicity, Sokoto State Office of the Independent National Electoral Commission, Muhammad Musa Sokoto. Back to the studios.
All right, thank you very much. And question is, what's the state of INEC's preparations for the elections in Jigawa? And this we will get from Awel Kazawuri.
In Jigawa State, preparations are in top gear to ensure hitch-free Saturday's rescheduled presidential and National Assembly elections. With me is the Administrative Secretary of the Independent National Electoral Commission here in Jigawa, Malan Ahmed Ado Daneji. Sir, we may like to hear some of the preparations put in place.
All the preparations that has been put in place properly. Distribution of sensitive and non-sensitive materials have been completed at 4 p.m. this evening. So all our elections materials, some have arrived at destinations and some are on their way. So we expect all our electoral materials to be in various offices by 6 to 7 p.m. today.
Those are issue of ad hoc staff.
Yeah.
Have they all been posted?
Ad hoc staff, including the NYC staff, have been posted appropriately according to the wards and polling units. We will only report to the registration area camps tomorrow by 12 p.m. and then subsequently make all necessary arrangements overnight. First thing in the morning by 7 o'clock they'll leave their registration area camps, that is the racks, and report to their duty stations, that is the polling units.
As you can hear, all arrangements have been completed. It's back to you to the studios.
All right, thank you very much. And right here in our Abuja Center, we still have our analysts and we still have the National Commissioner in charge of information and voter education. Now, I know that at some point, Professor Winshi said so much attention has been focused on INEC and not about the other key players. But let me at this point to bring up one other issue which I would want you to respond to. Some political parties have raised questions about the ad hoc staff that INEC has recruited, and some have raised concerns, really. Can we talk about that?
Well, when this process started, the Independent National Electoral Commission and the National Commissioners gave the resident electoral commissioners clear guidelines on how to recruit ad hoc staff. Now, there are various categories of ad hoc staff. The collation officers are completely different, and then these ones are recruited from the INEC headquarters. We had a meeting with all the vice chancellors of all federal universities, and they were asked to nominate persons who will serve as collation officers for the various registration areas and for the various local governments and to the various states. Now, the vice chancellors, most of the vice chancellors are going to act as state collation officers for the presidential election, and for the governorship elections, they are going to act as returning officers. So these ones are nominated from the various universities and forwarded to the Independent National Electoral Commission. And we run security check on these ones and then send them back to the resident electoral commissioners. So these ones are recruited from directly by the universities, sent to the Independent National Electoral Commission at the national headquarters before it goes back. Now, the resident electoral commissioners recruit supervisory presiding officers, and the 3 assistant presiding officers. What we normally do is that the presiding officers are recruited from the NYSC. In places where we have full complement of NYSC, we use them both as presiding officers, assistant presiding officer 1, 2, and 3. In places where we have a shortfall, we resort to students in federal tertiary institutions in those states. So our recruitment is standardized, and these are mostly corpers and mostly students of federal tertiary institutions. So I do not see any form of controversy whatsoever. And we open some of this because of the challenges we had. You recall that up till now, the students in federal tertiary institutions are still at home. So because of that, we opened the portal where we gave the students who are at home the opportunity to register through the portal. And we ran checks on some of these portals and brought them in, and all of them, some of them were recruited and trained. So there is no issue whatsoever relating to our method of recruitment. But you know, people raised issues, and in some of the places where they raised issues, we brought out the list of ad hoc staff and asked some of the political parties raising issues to come and point out in the list of ad hoc staff that are made up mostly of youth corps members, to come and point out which one of them is an agent of a political party or which one of them was nominated by political parties, and they just couldn't do that.
So they've not been able to pinpoint anyone?
They have not been able to pinpoint to anybody.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes, I know Prof wanted to make a comment there, but we'll save the comment for just a moment. We'll be back after a short while, because we're going over to take another report on the preparations from Owerri.
We are at the Central Bank of Nigeria, Owerri, where officials of the INEC Imo State, including the resident electoral commissioner, are distributing the sensitive materials to the EOs of the 27 local government areas of the state. Let's feel the pulse of the resident electoral commissioner on what is going on. Sir, you can see the materials are good to go.
Sure.
Are there challenges?
You've been watching, you've been listening to the news. Yeah, we had some challenges with some logistic challenges, some mix-ups which we are trying to sort out. And like you said, we are set to go.
Are there peculiar ones to the state?
Well, yes, a few. There are a few. There are also a few misplacements. One of our materials was just found at Gombe, and we also had Gombe material here. So we are sending it back, and we're expecting ours back.
What assurance do you have concerning the security of these materials?
All security arrangements have been put in place. There appear to be some little hiccups in the security arrangements, and we are advised to wait till this morning. And we are set to go. The escort teams are ready. Security personnel have been sent to our local government offices.
So far, so good. You can see the trucks. About 2 trucks are loading now to leave. After them, other trucks will come in and load for other local governments.
I'm representing my party here. Everything is going on smoothly. We'll be here till the last truck leaves.
According to their confessions, INEC Imo State is ready and good to go to various local government areas with their sensitive materials. It's back to you.
Right. Matrix, I am in Owerri. Yes, just before that report, we had put the question to the INEC National Commissioner in charge of Voter Education, and you were raring to make a comment on that. And
the thing I was going to say that from we as a keen observer, if a security-oriented operation is taking place, and information is scarcely leaking out, then it creates room for speculation. So because it's an uncommon strategy maybe of INEC. So because they don't access authentic information, then I think my gleaning of this is they are speculating based on the fact that they have been fenced out on what has been happening. They don't have access. So because you can find out that the leading parties are in accusation, counter accusation. That's what I'm saying. Which again goes to in favor of INEC in terms of how the integrity of what INEC is doing, and in terms of how serious INEC is in terms of trying to close out and fence out, parties to the process that may not, whose conduct will not actually help the integrity of the operations. So that is the thing. So political parties will be saying that because the stakes are very high. But the thing we have to say is that we are not running a PR, proportional representation system, It's first past the posts. Positions are two. One. Like, for instance, presidential position is one.
Right.
Senatorial position is one. That's what I mean by first past the post. So if we fulfill the condition, one person will win, another person will not win. You see what I'm saying? But it has something to do with the nature of politics. It has something to do, again, with the character of the position they want to get into. You see what I'm saying?
Yes. The nature of the politics, the character of
the positions.
The opposition.
Yes, or the political position. Okay. That's why the stakes are like that.
Okay. Yeah. The stakes are usually very high in an election of this nature. And all the political contestants are busy running here and there to mobilize their electorate. And I want to commend the INEC. They have been very, very elaborate, meticulous in their planning. And I don't think it can be better than that. When Atahiru Jega was there and he laid out his own strategies, I felt that was the best. I'm now seeing a better one.
Yes.
And this tends to engender some confidence.
Yes.
And by the time we hold the election on Saturday and it's successful, it will further lay ground for confidence in the electoral system.
Yeah.
So from the desk here, we appeal to the political contestants to not to obfuscate the political process. Let there be peace. There should be no rancor. There should be no manipulation of even the ad hoc staff, because they want to induce them with money and so on and so forth. So we are looking forward to Saturday 23 for a successful election.
Yes, there is today, at the back of this day, a former presidential aide, Shegun Adene, there he said to them, if you look at his disquisition there, the issue is that those who are going to win gracefully, and they're going to win patriotically. Those who are going to lose are going to lose gallantly. But all of them will focus upon the Nigerian states. You see what I'm saying? The survival of the Nigerian states. Because all of them have presented themselves as people who want to serve the public. And the public is the electorate is about to play a crucial role. And that is the process of recruiting those who will govern us for the next 4 years.
All right. Well, and it is on that note we'll have to round off the session and say the big thank you to Professor Tony Oyinshi. Thank you very much for being here.
It's my pleasure, sir.
Chief Michael Ajayi, I'd like to thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
All right. And then Mr. Festus Okoye, we're expecting that you'll be a part of us in the build-up as we go on, and so
I will try, but I need to head back to the office.
All right, I do. So we know that, but we'll certainly ask you to come in.
I'll make efforts.
All right. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
All right. So this is where we'll end this discussion on this session. Nigeria Decides. Our studios will open tomorrow at noon. So be sure to be with us at noon tomorrow when we reopen Nigeria Decides studios to bring you updates on the build-up towards the next elections, the kickoff on Saturday, the 23rd. We thank you for being with us. I am Cyril Stober. Enjoy the rest of your evening.
where they rule the country.
Start me.
Oh, come on, G.
I beg, allow me make my food just digest.
Hey, madam, I don't need that money. No contact me for this place. No let government don't lock my restaurant. Others will they will just stop it. Before now they will just say what's in the come my shop. Don't tell me to stop. Don't tell me that. Wait. I beg your pardon. Don't tell me. Don't tell me. Just stop that way you want to. Stop it.
Who is begging you? I said I beg your pardon.
Just stop it.
Nigerians